Like I said, I'm just doing some testing. I mean, I'm sure you probably got a lot of stuff swirling around in your head today, man. So, day your 50th birthday. You said your wife and the kids, or just the kids taking you?
No, the wife and the kids.
Wife and the kids.
And the kids taking me out today.
Give it. Skin fade?
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't touch the top.
Okay.
Don't let it get a little thicker.
Cool. So I've been asking fathers, just because, Father's Day is coming up, of course, with the father, the podcast being dedicated to men. Like, tell me what does being a father mean to you?
What does being a father mean to me?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Legacy. Legacy is one of the most important things it means to me. The legacy of being a father. Definitely my biggest accomplishment was becoming a father and kids, and just realizing you have to be responsible for another life. That at some point in life, that in time, that child can't eat or do anything for themselves, and they depend on you. So, being a father definitely meant, becoming more responsible. Growing up, I was in my 20s, mid to late 20s. So, but just being a father is important, and just realizing that trying to keep them from making the mistakes you made. Okay. Just so many things that go through your mind as being a father when you become a father. But I guess the basic to sum it up, just being a father is just being responsible for another life, trying to guide them to doing right, and leaving a legacy. So, you said there's so many things that kind of go through your head. I mean, share some of those if you would like. I would love to know kind of what some of that is. I haven't had the blessing of being a father yet. I've been around a lot of kids. And some have said, man, you've been like a father to me. But I know probably the feeling and the experience of having your own children is probably going to be, of course, 10 times different or whatever. I'm curious, you said you were in your mid-20s. How has being a father changed you? Has it made you a better man? If so, in what ways? How you feel like, being a father is definitely changing, man. It's made me a better person because it makes me second guess everything I do. I know everything I do affects them. It's like they say, the domino effect. I mean, the job, the decisions with school, just when you're out and about, the way you carry yourself, just in every way, it makes you a better person because you strive for greatness and try to be the best you can be because you never want to let them down. You never want to let them down. I mean, that's probably the biggest disappointment I can imagine as a father. Is letting your children down. So you want to always try to be a better person, give them something to look to, and one day when you're not here, you're gone on, they'll be like, my dad never, like I speak for my dad, I remember I used to hear a lot of my friends, they were single parents, and their dad wasn't around, and I was like, man, my dad was around, but I never, now that once you get in your teens and late teens and 20s, you be like, man, I never seen my daddy look at another woman, when y'all, some guys ooh and ah and cat con. I never saw my daddy carry himself like that. And one time when I got older, I said, Dad, I never seen you just, just look at another woman. I said, you just love my mom like that? He say, well, I love your mama. He say, but I got that out of my sister when I was young. You know what I'm saying? When I had you, I wanted to be the best dad and the best example that you had that you could see. And that thing right there, I try to carry that with me and just then do the same for my son and my kids. Yeah.
So, what you just said is a lot.
Yeah.
Trying to do the right thing, and it's helped you because you're always conscious of them watching, and like you said, you don't want to let them down. So, do you ever feel like pressure? Do you ever feel like,
oh, yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro, I can't do this, I can't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely pressure, especially when I was younger. Okay. You just coming out of college, the ends ain't meeting. You get laid off or something ain't right, something go wrong with the car, and you don't have the finances. And like I said, in my 20s,
you know, how we are in your 20s. And so, you know, there's been times there was a lot of pressure. And me being the father, the head of the household, you know, everything falls on me, you know. Though that's how you feel. I've always had a very supportive partner. But you feel like, you know, from the outside looking in, you know, if something go wrong, that's dad, you know. That's a lot of pressure to carry. But I've always prided myself too, Josh, is like taking situations like that and like as a challenge. Like, man, I ain't gonna let this beat me. I'm gonna show this thing. I got this. It's been guys that had dads that I know was weaker than me, and they made it, so I'm gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? I was, you know, something like that. That's just my way of thinking. It's something like that. So, you know, it does make you put a lot of pressure on you. But I've always wanted to step up to the challenge, and I've never been perfect. And it's been sometimes I feel short, but you know, the pressure is definitely there.
So, how do you determine what a good father is? Do you get to make that call? Do you get to say you a good father? Is it the kids? You know, is it the result of their life? Like, what do you think about that question?
Wow, that's deep. I never thought about it that way. I would say the kids get to determine, and I say that now because my father passed in 2012, and I'm sure. Well, I ain't gonna say that any dad that think they do a good job. So I would think now the reflection of what he did is like this conversation you and I having now. You know, like I think the kids get to determine what type of father you actually were. Was that your intent? Maybe not. You know, maybe you fall short. Maybe you exceed their expectations. I don't think you're ever gonna do everything right in the children's eyes, and I don't think you should. That's something you should even strive for. But I think you should just be the best dad you can be. Let the kids decide. The accomplishments, they have a percentage in it. You know, both my kids in college, and I'm looking forward to them graduating. So I do feel like some type of way that is a reflection on the dad I've been.
Okay.
But that I can't take credit for that either because that's them, you know. My mom was valedictorian in her class, and I dropped out of high school.
Okay.
So, you know, hey, so it doesn't necessarily have to mean it had anything to do with you, but I'm going to take credit for it, you know what I'm saying?
I asked that question because I think it's a very difficult one to answer. Yeah. And for the exact same reason that you said, you know, you mentioned it like, shoot, you know, ain't too many fathers gonna be like, nah,
I dropped the ball.
You know, you know, I don't think this, and I respect the ones that I would say do, and the ones that can acknowledge, hey man, you know, this is an obvious, you know, error in judgment or whatever, you know, whatever mistake might have been made, or I could have done this better. But as far as it comes to like judging good, you know, I always look and I wonder because, you know, it's a lot of stuff that as kids, you know, we expect of our parents and it's not communicated. And so as a parent, like, do you, you know, check in with your kids? Do you ask them like what they need, or is it just, do you kind of operate off of the assumption that I know what they need, so I'm going to provide what I think they need, which could, if you were letting them be the judge, you know, it's almost like giving somebody something you think they're going to like as a gift instead of just asking them.
Well, they won't.
You know, and they looking at it and they're like, man, I don't even know why this person gave me this.
You're right.
You feeling kind of some kind of way because you tried to do the best you could, you know, and it ain't working out right. When it's just like one of those things where I heard somebody make this statement. They were like, man, you need to check in with your kids the same way you have like a review, you know, at the job. So, you know, as a manager or supervisor or whatever, you know, the lead person at a job, like they always are able to have the people underneath them review them and review them without consequence. You know what I mean? So there ain't no fear of like, okay, boy, if I say this, you know, I might lose my job, you know what I'm saying? But pay might get cut, they're going to give me some extra work or whatever, you know? Yeah. But it's one of those things where
you know, I heard somebody say that, and I was like, man, that's really powerful. I said, man, I don't know how that would work in the black community because traditionally we ain't never been able to kind of have that kind of relationship with our kids. But I asked that as a father, would that be something that you would ever consider doing? Like, I mean, is your children, you got 2 older children and then 1 younger, but would you ever sit down with them and just check in with them and just see? If because you say, you know, you'll let them determine whether it's good or not.
Right. I never even thought about it that way.
Okay.
Honestly, one thing I do pride myself on is being open-minded. So I definitely would love to hear what they have to say. I don't do that. I don't check in. I do parent by what I think they need. Now, the only time I say I kind of vary from that is if something wrong or something, and I'm like, what's up? You know, you good? Or you want to talk to me? Because I can see they moving different. So then I'll check in and want to see what's wrong. I actually care to what's got them moving differently. But besides that, I don't, which, you know, that's something I never thought about it I could do. But that is something in the black household that's, you know I was raised, my parents didn't care what I thought.
Right.
I'm doing the best I can do. And you know, if you can do better, you know, we all done heard it. So but I don't think that's the right way though. I think, you know, when you know better, you do better. And so, as a parent, I think it's okay to check in with them. If you're striving to be a good parent, then they should be able to review you. They should be able to be open with you and transparent and tell you, you know, what they think and what you're doing now. You have to be able to decipher the difference between, well, Dad, you didn't give me the BMW I want. You know what I mean? You need to be able to decipher the difference. Yeah. But as far as something that's serious to them, and you know that I think they need and they don't. I mean, I use an example with Braylon. You know, I'm a sneakerhead. You know, so in the middle school, I used to get him all these J's and. You know, and I would notice, I would make him wear them. You know, the traditional iron fist Dad, man, why you didn't put the shoes on and put that on? We're going out, look nice. And then one time I told him that, and hadn't left the room yet, and I think he thought I had, and he kind of like, oh. And I was like, what's up? And that was one of those moments you just referred to. I was like, well, you don't like the shoes? And he's like, Dad, I like Vans. Bro.
Yes, sir.
Bro, I've been buying this joker these expensive sneakers basically all his life, and once he got old enough to realize for himself, he said, I like Vans. And so that was a moment I was like, man, maybe I should have asked him what he wanted instead of just assuming. So, you know, you live and you learn.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example because, you know, I look at it and I think to myself, like, even as you're saying that, there are so many parents that their intentions are good.
Definitely.
And they care for their kids and they want the best for them and they want their kids to be happy. You want your kids to be able to do things on their own, all this good stuff. However, they rarely involve the kid in the process. And I stop and I think, and I'm like, do that actually make sense?
No.
Or is it just like, hey, I'm repeating what I saw done and I'm just keeping on with that? Because it's like, hey, man, if you want something that's going to be the best for me, like, shouldn't I be involved in this process? Shouldn't you know exactly what I need?
What you're trying to strive to do. And I do think parenting can become sometimes like a dictatorship, bro. You know, I'm guilty of it. I know my parents were. It ain't about what you want. You know, it's about what they want as the parent. And again, like I said, that's not the best thing. But I'm guilty of that too. You know, the child should be involved in what you're trying to shape them over, what's best for them, because who knows what they want more than them. But it is something. It's I don't know. It's something in your subconscious that you think you know what's best for them more than they do. And you don't even start to respect them till they get older. You don't know what you're talking about, you know. You remember that "do as I say, not as I do" type thing. So it's like that, you know. You don't know what you're talking about yet, you know. I was having my conversation with my son the other day, and I was like, nah, boy, don't be lying to me. He said, Dad, I don't have no reason to lie.
Yeah.
And I was like, I respect that. I called him back.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, I respect that. I want you to stand on that. You know, as long as you living like that, we ain't got no problems. You know what I'm saying? And because my wife always say, Dad, let go. Let go. they doing fine. We ain't gonna be here forever with them. But I don't live like that. I'm like, man, at my son's age, man, I had been to boot camp. I had got locked up. Mm-hmm. I had did all that and was in college at Braden's age. I had went back, dropped out, got in trouble, did my little 6 months, got out, got my GED, went to college, all by his age. So I'm a whole different animal. I'm looking at him like at his age, I'm like, bro. So I think I know everything. The streets, the education, and my wife like, you don't know everything. So, it is, sometimes the kids should be involved and just, you have good intentions, man. I've never met a father that's active in the kids' life that doesn't think they're doing the best they can and doesn't have good intents. I mean.
And that's why I asked the question, because, just because you think you're doing the right thing,
right,
don't mean just because your intentions are good, you hear the expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the hell that I'm speaking of can be just stress and tension in the relationships between you and your kids. Simply because, man, my intentions is this, but I ain't consulted you on this. And you feel like you said, man, your opinion don't matter. I ain't got to explain nothing for you. Right. And I think that at some point you do know what's best for your kid, because they come out and they can't take care of themselves. Right. They can't do nothing. So they're dependent on you for everything. But at some point, you're trying, I would assume that you're trying to raise an independent, right? And so as an independent, I need you to be able to think. I need you to be able to speak. I need you to be able to say this. But if I'm constantly, cutting you off at the knees when you try to do that, it's gonna be tough to develop that independence. And I had some conversations with some other men, and one of the things that came up is that, like, one of the worst feelings, like I think that a lot of fathers feel like they would be disappointed in themselves if you raise a child that can't stand on their own feet. The child that's always dependent on you. Mm-hmm. And so that dependency on you and that relying on you versus being able to rely on self, that started early.
Yeah. And
so it's like, how do you balance that? And so
it's rough, Josh, because we talk all the time at the cigar lounge of that. Our generation, your generation, helicopter parents. Mm-hmm. Like, bro, me and my friend Ryan was talking the other day, his son's in high school. Mm-hmm. Our parents didn't even come to our games. We don't miss practice. Mm-hmm. Practice, we don't miss practice. We at everything. So unintentionally, I think we are making them weaker and not being able to stand on their own because we trying to overcompensate or give them what we didn't have. Mm-hmm. And again, that's the intent. But then you think, like I said, 22, like my son, he couldn't hold a cat. I mean, I could have took his lunch money. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
He got him to give it to me. Yeah. Make him feel like So that's a thing, that we guilty of, man, and we don't mean to do that, but I think they should be able to stand on their own to be independent. But we love them so much, we try to shelter them from everything. And sometimes it come back and it bite us in the ass, man.
Well, that's
It does.
So that kind of leads me into my next question, which is just, as a father, you are in a unique category. Not as a father, but because you have boys and girls. Mm-hmm. Not every father has that, and so how would you say raising your son and raising your daughters is different? How has if your approach has been different? I don't know.
Yeah, man.
But if it has, like, let me hear.
Any father,
okay,
they tell you it's not a difference is lying, bro.
I got something here to be like.
Any father to tell you there's not a difference between that daughter and that son is lying.
Okay.
I mean, and I am in a unique position. Yeah. I had a little sister.
Okay.
Let me start there. And it was two brothers and my sister. And I'll just give you a quick example. my brother went into the military. He was a year younger than me. He went to the military. I was in the streets. Mm-hmm. So I remember him calling in the military, in the army, and asking my parents to co-sign for a car. Mm-hmm. And they were like, Cody, we can't, co-sign for no car right now. We got X, Y, and Z going on. This is this. My brother was pissed. Mm-hmm. I'm in the military. I'm guaranteed a job for the next 3 or 4 years. Boom, boom, boom. 19, 18. Fast forward, my sister's 16. Mm-hmm. Went and got this girl a car, boy. Sweet 16. Now, how do you explain that to a teenager? Because then it looks like it's preference. It's one's getting special favoritism. You know what I mean? You can't even disguise that. Yeah. And so we approached my dad because we always had that kind of relationship. I could talk to him, and he said the realest thing. He said, "I can't explain it. Mm-hmm. You have to walk in these shoes."
Okay.
He said, and I know it look bad. He said, it's just a difference. He say, I'm raising y'all tougher because one day you're going to have to be the head of a household, And so I got to be a little tough on you. And at 20, that don't sound, come on, man. That I need that new car.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But now as a father with a daughter, it's a difference, man. It's a difference. You just they pull on your heartstring. Them girls do, and you want to protect them. You worried about men. Or when they start dating. Like my oldest will be 23 next week, a week from today.
Oh, wow.
She a week after me, so she'll be 23 next Wednesday. And she's dated, and I want to meet the boy. And I want a couple of them brought their dads over and that, but Braylon. I've never, one girlfriend, parents I've met. Mm-hmm. The rest, I don't even think like that with him. Like, and it's a hypocrisy. Let me start there. It is definitely a hypocrisy. Because, that's somebody's daughter that he got. You know what I mean?
Of course.
That is somebody's daughter. And, I'm guilty of it just like everybody else. I'm just focusing on my child and, my son and my daughter. And, if you raise your son right, he dealing with somebody's daughter too. Mm-hmm. So I look at how, I let him get away with certain things that I know I won't let my daughter get away with. Okay. And so it's definitely a difference, man. Again, intent, like you say, intent. Mm-hmm. The intent is not, to make differences, but it's definitely there, man. I can't even put it in. I can't explain it. It's definitely a difference.
So. With your son, man, with Braylon, man, what do you feel like you've done to prepare him to be a man? And, like, what have you taught him about manhood? You know what I mean? Some people look at it and be like, oh, man, well, he see me, he see this. Mm-hmm. But are there specific things, lessons, or principles about being a man and taking care of a family or whatever, have you like sat down and talked with them? Because some people look at it like, oh man, well, I didn't told him about the birds and the bees, man. Right. You know what I'm saying? Told him, hey man, strap up, man. Yeah. Make sure you got some rubbers in your pocket or whatever. But it's just like, okay, is that what it means to be a man? Is that part of the legacy? Is that, because when we were growing up, it's all kind of folks like, oh boy, you done got your son, boy, you got this, you did this, and that's, that was equated with being a man, being out here running around, multiple women, like all this kind of different stuff. And it's just like, what have you, as you've grown from all of the different things that you've gone through, all the different experiences, how has your idea of manhood changed in terms of what you value as a man, what you think is important as a man, and what have you passed on to your son in terms of that?
I have actually. I guess I'm different in that aspect. I have sat down with Braylon and talked to him about what I view as a man. This responsibility. I've actually sat down with him when I was doing bills and saying, you're gonna have to do this, and I'll joke and tease him sometimes. Your mom like, can you do this? Like he got me a birthday card last night at midnight. We do this thing, we exchange cards, and the card was like, Dad, take a day off, don't do nothing, don't run, don't do anything. He wrote in there with he wrote in there, and just tell mom no. So he watches and he thinks, I think he associates being responsible, fixing everything as being a man. And I have talked to him about being a man, especially on the aspect now of having daughters myself and how you treat women, because in our culture, and I ain't gonna just put it in the black culture, but as a man, it is, brownie points, a notch on your belt. So I've talked to him about that because I respect him for that. He has that I didn't have at his age. He is actually a one-woman man, bro.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's so, and that's why I said part of that probably came from, and I don't know when you start having conversations with him, but that's why I say, like, who would the other influences be that have, would have poured into him and told him, hey, man, go out here and get with all of these chicks. Go smash this chick, go smash this chick. If you've been talking to him and saying, hey, respect women, look at it like this, look at it like that, then that's probably some of what shaped it. Now, like I said, when we were growing up, that wasn't necessarily the case, bro. Every man I knew,
right?
From the deacon in the church, like everybody, hey, boy, you get the little hint, you get the little eyes, they know, like, hey, boy, what you think about this or what you think about that? Boy, you see that girl over there, boy, go holler at her, go say something to her.
Uncle.
And so, you had those individuals that were like, pushing you, and so it's something that we talk about, and that's why I said, like, as a father, like, I always looked at it like, man, what do you do? What do you teach? What do you say to your child in that situation? You know what I mean?
I definitely can't, I definitely don't let him, I definitely let him know he see how I treat his mom.
Okay.
That's another thing too, bro. They watching, and me and my wife kind of different. We've been dating since she was a junior in high school. And so but all my kids, especially my daughters, look at that and want that, and that ain't what that's. I hope they get there, but that's the probability of that is that don't just happen too much. So I tell them, if you want someone, just treat someone right, and you gonna get hurt. I always tell them you gonna get hurt. Out here, and when it comes to women, you gonna be hurt and you're gonna be disappointed. But you also gonna disappoint and hurt people. I said the only thing you do is you can just treat somebody like you want to treat them to treat Taylor or Sage, which is his baby sister. And I think that stuck more than I realized it stuck. I think that stuck because I don't know where he got that from, Josh.
Okay.
At that age, bro.
Yeah.
No way. And I'll tell him, boy, we be out. I'm like, Braylon, look at her. She pretty. Our waitress. And Dad, I got a girlfriend. I'm like, we laugh. My wife just shake her head. I'm like, he didn't get that from you. So it's a little joke, but it's true, man. He definitely has some integrity when it comes to how he treats women and deals with women, and he's done things just like all boys do, but for the most part, he definitely got that part figured out a lot earlier than I did and most men do. So, he watches me fix stuff and do all that, and I take him and say, "Come here, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you this." And he pays attention. So, but I never actually just actually told him what I think it means to be a man, with morals, integrity, and provider and protector. And I never did that. I guess I just assume. I hope he's watching me how I carry myself, and
so that's what this conversation is about. Because I just look like your mind is
it
was
right? Like wow, especially when you said how defines a good father. Like today when we go to lunch, I'm gonna ask him. I want to report. How am I doing?
That's it. And I mean, I think sometimes, and I had a conversation with one of my best friends, and I said, man, listen, bro. Like, make sure, because I think the assumption is that your kids understand things the way that you understand things, and the reality is that they don't. They know how to nod their head and shake their head and say yes and say the right things to get on and get out of a conversation. But until they can kind of repeat something back to you, sometimes we get frustrated as the adult, and I'm sure as a father that frustration level probably goes higher because, you have expectations of your children. And,
you got expectations for them, but it's something that you might not have told them. It's something that you think that, oh, they didn't watch me, they didn't saw me enough that they should know this.
Right.
But if you haven't sat down and explained this thing to them thoroughly, made sure that they understand it, and they've been able to display that they understand it back to you, then how can you hold them accountable for that?
Yeah, you can.
You know what I mean? But oftentimes, most parents ain't open enough to sit down and have that conversation. And when the kid try to explain that, it's like, oh, nah, man, hush, be quiet, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it just kind of go on, and the kid looking at it, and the kid thinking like, man, my daddy's an asshole.
Right. I think we all thought that.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think it's just coming from a place of like, we all want to be understood. As a parent, you want to make sure that the kids understand you, but as a kid, you want to make sure that you understood too. Yeah. And that's why I say, like, having these type of conversations, like I said, I think it's going to be really, really helpful. Because I think there are men out there, again, that are well-intentioned, but may not necessarily be going about things in the most productive way. I'm not here to tell anybody what's right or wrong. I don't have any children. So, some people automatically feel like that disqualifies me. But what I can say is I've talked to enough fathers, and I've worked with thousands of children over the years, and so I have a good idea about some stuff, right? Now there's some, intricacies or whatever that you only gonna know through the experience of being a father. But I just say, hey man, I think that this conversation is gonna be, like I said, helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because of that, man. Now, oftentimes, and this is just the flip sides, right? Because like I said, you're in a unique position because you got girls and you got a boy, right? And so we always hear, like you said, every father, man, oh yeah, man, I got to teach my son how to be a man, whatever that means. But some dads just, hey man, I'm finna teach you how to change a tire, change the oil, what I'm saying? For some, it's, sitting down, hey man, I'm gonna take you out here and we're gonna shoot guns together or something, all kinds of different stuff, But on the flip side, like I said, because you got daughters, I wonder, because everybody just assumes that the mom's gonna teach the daughter how to be a woman and all this kind of different stuff. And that's all well and good. You teach your son, hopefully how to be a husband, what a husband may have to do, and those sort of type of things when that time comes, right? But do you teach your daughter? Are you grooming her to be a wife? Because the way a father, the way a husband looks at a wife is different than how a woman look at it. So a woman gonna tell you something, but you as a man, it's certain things that, hey, the man wants you to do. So do you have those kind of conversations with your daughter? Have you even thought about having those conversations with your daughter? In terms of like giving it to her from a male perspective about what it means, or to be in a relationship with a man. Hey, here's some things that do this, don't do that.
I've not wanted to dealt with it like that.
Okay.
But I'll say, Taylor, especially when I'm being sarcastic with a mom, like, now see, this ain't what you do. You don't do that. If you ever get married, girl, don't do that. Look, I told your mom wants this, and it's like I say, we laugh about it, but I told her I don't know how to be a woman. I can tell her what I like, but then her husband may be different. So I just tell her, I tell her my issue with a lot of black women. I say the independent thing, and I say it's fine to be independent, baby. You in college now. I want you to get your degree and go on and be able to provide for yourself. But in case you run into a guy that you like and can provide and do what you need him to do, be able to be submissive, be able to be cooperative, because that is a huge turnoff if you can't be those things. And a lot of times, especially with young black girls with no fault of their own, they've been raised to be independent. They have no father in the household, and they see how mom move. And again, my kids have been blessed to have both of us there. So I try to use a little situation and tell them, look, it's okay to be independent. It's okay to, make your own money and all that. But if you find a man and you trust him enough to share other things with him, then you should be able to share his advice and allow him to lead. Until he shows you he can't lead, man, maybe, you know, that's a whole different story. But if it's someone that you like enough to lay down with, for instance, and go out with and spend a lot of time with, you know, if you trust him that much, I think you should trust him in other ways too. Once he shows you he can be those things, you know. So I don't talk to her about, you know, what I don't even know what that would look like, but I do know my wife does talk to her and, you know, cook and the traditional things, because I always say a lot of times women want traditional husbands, but they want to be modern women.
Right.
And we get into it about that. But I tell her, hey, you know, that's not, you know, you want somebody to pay all the bills, but then again, you want to be independent. That ain't gonna,
it ain't gonna work.
That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. You know, so she gets it and she sees it and she'll ask herself, you know, so I do the best I can. I really think I've done a great job with that and showing them how to. They made my kids in a whole job. They made me a better person, because, you know, I used to have a hot temper, and now I can't do that now with them watching. Yeah. You know, me and her mom used to argue when they were young, and, you know, I'm yelling at the top of my lungs. Now it's like, I can't do that. Yeah. You know, one day she gonna be in some guy house and he yelling at my daughter like that. And, you know, that's not acceptable. So the bottom line with fatherhood has changed me in every aspect, whether it's even how I deal with my wife, how I carry myself on the job, you know, definitely finances, you know, religion. Me and my wife weren't big into religion. She was growing up. I wasn't. But we took them to church. Especially when they go with their grandmother, they ain't got no choice for the summer stuff. So I think we gave them a good balance. Of course, it could always be better, but they see, you know, what it's like in relationships, and I think we have a healthy relationship, me and my wife, and they watch that and see that, and, you know, so I said all that to say, I guess, go back, because I think my daughters watch that, and that's what she wants. Now, is that feasible in this day and time? You know, me and my wife started dating in '94. It's 2023. I don't know if, you know, no social media and all that when we were coming through. So now it's rough out there. It's rough out there, bro. And I just pray about that thing for her, and just hope she finds someone. You know, I kind of go off. You know, she went to Milton. Yeah. And my daughter's pretty. I mean, of course, everybody thinks it's daughter pretty. My daughter's a pretty girl, and I mean, they had problems finding dates at the prom, Josh. The black girls.
So,
bro,
that's not uncommon. Yeah, is what I'll tell you. I've heard several different men, you know, say the exact same thing. And I think that's a completely different conversation. Right. But a valid conversation to have is just like, that's part of the trade-off when you move, become successful, and you move to the suburbs. And you come to the suburbs, and it's like, okay, man, my kids are around, you know, more white people or more people that are not, you know, black. And so what's the trickle down effect on that, you know? And I think some of it is also from some of the young men that we talk to in the barbershop. It's just that, like, they have an image or perception of black women. And they're just like, nah, you know, they turned off by black girls altogether. Yep. And again, that goes back to the whole, you know, independence and all of this kind of stuff. I don't need no man type of stuff, blah, 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 that you hear from so many different women. Right. Or that's put on display. And that's why I say, you know, what are you teaching your daughter to counter that? Because it's one of those things where some basic stuff, I think all men desire respect. And so that's something that, you know, you can teach your daughter, like, hey, man, this is something, hey, man, when you dealing with a man, you respect a man. This is the way you show respect to a man. You know, it might be this, and of course you're going to have a case-by-case scenario what somebody thinks, you know, respect is, but at the same time, it's one of those situations where, you know, that's a key point. Now, you said earlier, you know, if you're willing to spend time with him, you're willing to lay down with him, whatever, you know, those sort of type of things, like, you ought to be able to follow his lead. You ought to be able to be submissive, you know, and when he's proven he can lead, right? And so it becomes like, what does that leadership need to look like? Because somebody may be thinking they leading, but they really ain't doing anything. And that's why I say, like, you know, I was always curious about, like, okay, have you taught her what leadership looks like? You know what I'm saying? And not in so much of a detail that it's specifically what you think leadership is, but have you given her some outlines, some parameters, like leadership should at least have these characteristics. It should have this type of stuff. It should have this. So these are some of the things you're looking for. It may not have all of these, but if these things are absent, then he ain't lead. You know, you might want to throw him out.
Well, I always tell this, and I'll say, you know, good leadership is peace of mind for you.
Okay.
For her.
Okay.
If you at peace at home, there may be something may be behind. Mm-hmm. But that ain't everything. You know what I'm saying? Finance, we focus too much on financial. If this man make you happy and you peaceful and you comfortable and he treats you like a lady, everybody ain't meant to be rich. You know what I mean? But if you happy and he treating you right and ain't, you know, disrespectful, hitting on you, nothing like that, sometimes you have to trade off because you can't get everything. You know.
Trade off.
Yeah, you can't get everything. But then, you know, it's kind of going back to what I was saying to you just now about, you know, laying down with a man and all that, and speaking about my daughters. And I was thinking, you know, from being a man, I have told her, I say, don't become a hostage to your vagina.
Okay.
And my wife looking like, what do you mean, Dad? And we had these type of conversations.
Yeah,
like
no,
100.
Listen, bro, I'm all for it because they getting exposed so much.
Because I was like,
have
look,
some real conversation.
And she like, you know, what does that mean? And when I first told her, it's been about 3 or 4 years ago, I say, society has double standards. You know, a man can sleep. Your brother gonna be able to sleep with as many girls he wants. He the man. Yeah. You're gonna be looked upon in a different way. You know, by society. You know, you can't worry about what people think, but at the same time, you know, everybody you sleep with is not gonna be husband material.
Yeah, that's a fact.
You know, but your brother can go to Vegas or wherever, meet a girl and may have a one night stand. He fine. If you find somebody you like and you did that, only person you got to be looking in the mirror is yourself in the morning. Yeah. You know, now, of course, I don't want you out here, you know, sleeping around, being very promiscuous. But at the same point, don't think because I gave John Doe some ass, I got to put up with his mess. And I don't want add another body to my body count and I'm stuck. Don't become a hostage to your vagina like that. Okay. You know, that's what I meant by that. Okay. You know,
man, I think that's exactly what I mean right there. And that's part of it, right? And I'm glad that you said that because that's a conversation that some parents, some fathers
never
ain't gonna have that with their daughter, and they just like, okay, well, you know, they don't even want to think about it.
Right.
I get it. You know what I mean? I have my little sisters, and I'm like, man, these are my little sisters, so, you know.
Imagine a daughter that on 10.
So, right, you know, so that's why I say I can only imagine what that thought process is like, but it's just one of those situations where.
But it's, again, we've talked about it, it's the unconditional. That's what unconditional love look like. Mm-hmm. That's what non-judgmental. You want the best for your children.
Absolutely.
And so if that means making some mistakes with these guys or girls or whatever, you want them to be the best the version of themselves. And, you know, I'm not going to judge her because she made a few mistakes and, you know, this. Now, everybody else may be differently, but I love you unconditional. And and that's what matters. You know what I'm saying? If you find somebody that got your back, you know what I mean? Someone that ain't putting no stipulations on you or what I don't know what it is to be a woman, but I can tell you what I view as a woman, and especially as what I view as a black woman. Your mom black, you know. So my household is unique in the aspect too. Like, I got a son. Yeah. He, like a year and a half later, he has that same perception of black women. Yeah. So he got his Hispanic Latino girlfriend, and I got a nephew, same age as my daughter, 2 weeks younger. So they both got others. Yeah. And so that starts dialogue between them and the moms and my grandma. Now that don't, you know how that's gonna go. But but I tell them sometimes y'all just need to listen to them. You know, listen to them boys. But you know how that is.
Of course, and that's, you know, to me that's part of it, man. Is sitting down having that dialogue to be able to find out and see. You know, there's a lot of stuff that folks
folks don't want to listen to. It's like they trying to tell you what they're looking for.
Yep.
They're trying to explain this thing to you, and for whatever reason, you being stubborn, and you don't want to hear what they're saying, man. And I just think it's interesting, and that's why I said, like, I think that it's valuable to have those conversations, man. And I take my hat off to you for having those kind of conversations, because they tough, but at the same time, you telling her and you helping her understand. Because here's the thing: you're the first man that she's gonna respect. Mm-hmm. In some way or another, the image of you is burned into her mind, and depending on who you are, how you carried yourself, the conversations, the interactions with her mother, with her, that's going to shape the type of men that she fool with, right? That she deals with. That's going to shape a lot of that. And so they're going to have different pieces or reflections of the most, impactful men, in her life. And right now, that's you, right?
That's me.
Probably a brother, what I'm saying? So those are different things that, I feel like if you're not intentional as a father, you miss out on that. Right. And so it's like, do you want to leave that to chance that she just gonna get that right?
Nah, I
or
can't.
Do you want to kind of just be, like I said, just be a little bit more purposeful, be a little bit more,
I'm moving with intent when dealing with her, especially at this age. Yeah. You got going on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I appreciate your openness.
Oh, no doubt, man.
And just willingness to share, because I think it's a conversation that I'm always curious. Because fatherhood ain't no manual, man. No. It's no manual, and so you can do a whole lot of work, and you don't know if you're doing it right.
Yep.
You don't know.
It's like marriage. Now you're on the right track. It's just like marriage. I mean, it's just you're responsible for them on a whole different level as a child. Not of course you created them and all that, but versus your wife or husband or whatever, but. Marriage, if you two parents household, sometimes I do think makes a difference. Then sometimes I think it's overrated, sometimes. But my kids look at me and my wife, bro, and that's the blueprint. I mean, that's the blueprint. I mean, we up last night at midnight, balloons, and I'm reading cards, and stuff like that I take for granted. My brother was here a couple of weeks ago, and we were backing out the yard. Me and the guys, and we were headed downtown, and my wife and my daughter was in the door. And when I got to the car, my brother and my friend Percy was like, "Bro, that shit huge right there." And I'm like, "What you talking about?" They walking you to the door and saying, "I love you, goodbye." Like, boy, that ain't normal. And I'm like, what? That's I don't. That's all I know.
That's all I know.
Sometimes they be happy to see you gone, be glad that Negro out of here, and I'm like, nah, man. And I remember I'm looking now. Sometimes it take that.
Yeah.
I'm looking like, damn, they do this all the time. Like, you a fixture in this household. And my bro like, man, Selena, my wife, that man, they'll be wake me off. We laugh about that thing. So I know I'm doing something right. Appreciate that, John.
No problem, man.
Appreciate it, man.
No problem at all. I'm gonna do one last little thing.
What was that, something for my face? What you put on?
Oh, it's gonna give you that glow, man. It's that birthday glow.
Okay.